We've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice. Oh, let us all Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed. Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice. Jimmy Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey.
Well, there I am. A comedy of errors this morning. Glad to have you here on the program. Jimmy is my name. Jaime Lagos, if you're new to the program, unleashed from the confines of corporate radio. And here we sit together in one accord on a Monday morning, the 8th day of September, year of our Lord, 2025. If you're new to the program, I introduce myself. I'm Jimmy. Producer Chad is over there somewhere, and he's Delilah's, God knows where she's at. And the whole crew is here. And we're here to give you infotainment this morning. It's Lakey Unleashed. We call it Unleashed because for years I spent time in the corporate world of radio, and I've been freed from the corporate world of radio. Pleased to say that. And in being freed from the corporate world of radio, we do our own little program here this morning, and I appreciate all of you tuning into it. So anyway, welcome to the program. Again, Monday edition of the show. Big time Michael Letts going to be on the program this morning. You never want to miss an episode of Michael Letts being on the program. Donald Wilkie's going to be on the show this morning. Gregory Wrightstone from the CO2 Coalition is going to be here, and also a big time guest at 9 a.m. We're going to go a little extended time today, overtime. Going to get double pay, Chad. You and me going to get double time for going to the 9 o'clock hour. That's going to be Sal Lidvack. It's going to be on the program. He has a great new movie out. If you're in the market that has had it, it's called Guns and Moses, and Sal Lidvack will be on the program talking about the re-release of the movie and a lot of other topics at hand. We'll talk with Sal Lidvack. So don't go anywhere, my friends. It's going to be big time. It's going to be exciting to have you here on the program. There's an interesting story from Politico. Amy Coney Barrett, Supreme Court Justice, says all this reports of these Democrats saying it's a constitutional crisis. She says reports by the Democrats are greatly exaggerated, that we're in a constitutional crisis. So it just says that just because Don Lemon and some other jackwagon for journalist or former journalist or fake journalist tells you that there's a constitutional crisis. Why? Because a Republican or Donald Trump's in charge. Please know that they are full of bull hockey, if you will, and there's not a constitutional crisis. Amy Coney Barrett been making the rounds. I don't know if she's selling a book, but I know she's been speaking at a few conferences. Oh, she does have a book. Okay. She's got a book out doing a couple of media appearances, and she's warning America that, hey, watch out for these jackasses that tell you that there's some kind of a constitutional crisis. Friday was exciting. Did you miss us on Friday? I hope you missed us. Producer Chad and I were not here on Friday. This time Friday morning, we had heard a shotgun, but it was a shotgun start for a golf tournament. It was not a shotgun like you're on the streets of Chicago, going to get killed in a liberal city. It's not like you're getting shot by the homeless in Jared Polis's downtown Denver. No. Trende Aragua in Aurora. No, this was a shotgun start at a golf tournament. Very successful day. For those of you that did come out to watch the program, some people I talked to didn't even know we had a program. So anyway, glad to have all of you out. It was a fun day Friday. It was an exhausting day. I had to do the golf tournament, host it, be on point. I was up late the night before finalizing some prep work on it, and did the golf tournament. Then I had to go announce a high school football game. If you weren't aware, I am the voice of a local high school team in the big time stadium, and it was their crosstown rival week, and it was a packed house, and I was up there doing my thing. And by the time I finished announcing a football game, I thought pretty much that it could be it for me. I was pretty tired after that. But anyway, good to have all of you here on the show. Pleasure to be here. Lots of things to talk about. I want to talk later on in the program. I want to talk about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on Thursday. He went before the hallowed halls of Congress and gave some testimony. Of course, we did not do the show on Friday, so we did not get to give commentary. And I'll just give you a high-level observation that we can dive in for some deepness. I know we have some memes today, I believe, that have some Robert F. Kennedy references in them. But every time I watch these jackwagon members of Congress get up there and grill somebody, listen, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. knows more about health and chemicals in food and color dyes and has done more research on vaccination than any jackass that sits in the hallowed halls of Congress, including those esteemed pious ones, some Republicans going, well, I'm a doctor, I know better than you do. Well, if you're a doctor and you know better than we do, what is your answer as to why we have so many chronic diseases, why we're the sickest nation on earth, and why aren't you speaking out? Because obviously what you know as a doctor is not necessarily making America healthy again. And so anybody that sits up there and tells RFK Jr., your views on medicine, your views on the vax, your views on dyes and food colorings and all those chemicals, your views on that are wrong. I'm a doctor and I know better. Well, if you know better as a doctor was all that great, don't you think America would be healthy? Maybe could it be that we have a pharmaceutical industrial complex and we also have doctors that are in cahoots with that? Did you know that especially when it comes to the jabs that they want to give you, that they get bonuses from the pharmaceutical companies? They can earn extra money. So yes, it would be easy to convince some jackass doctor who doesn't have any efficacy or integrity tell you that it doesn't have any ethics or integrity, tell you that, oh, it's okay. I know more about you, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Well, if you really knew that, then you would be able to give an answer as to why America's chronic diseases and sickness are way up. So this senator from Kansas, I don't know if you're watching from Kansas, who is this asswipe that you put in there? I know he's a Republican, but to hell with him. I was watching him in his piety and what a jackwagon he is. There's another Republican doctor from North Carolina. Listening to these Republican doctors talk about how they know about health and human services, and yet all they do is spew what we've been told, the lies we've been told about the food pyramid, the vaccines. All they do is spew the lies. It's kind of like listening to Bernie Sanders when he gives us a lecture on economics. Remember back in Hillary Rodham Kenkel's Clinton? Some of you don't remember this. I was just an early voter. But when Willie Jeff Clinton decided that his wife, Hillary Rodham Kenkel's Clinton, was going to be the healthcare czar of America, and she put together what they called Hillary Care. And you're like, what qualifies you to run the healthcare department of this? Well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is very well qualified, has done a lot of research, and yes, sometimes he goes against the pharmaceutical industrial complex, but again, if we put all of our trust in the pharmaceutical industrial complex in America, maybe we would, why are we so sick? If that's where we should put our trust, why is America so sick? Why is obesity up? Where's this autism come from? I mean, there's just so many questions, and all Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is saying, hey, let's ask the questions, and he's poo-pooed for that. So anyway, we'll talk more about that because I just found it real rich that Republicans and Democrats who are sponsored little whores, they're in the hallowed halls of Congress that speak up for the causes that donate to their campaign circles, their campaign cycles, are going after Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because what Robert F. Kennedy Jr., they're not worried about you being safe. They're worried about their donors and the people that bought and paid for them and their money, their gravy train drying up. That's why Elizabeth Warren was on the warpath as Pocahontas against Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Wouldn't even listen to his answer. That's why Senator Michael Bennet from Colorado put extra marbles in his mouth and tried to utter a word without sounding like a drunken sailor out there. Yeah, there it is on the screen, Marble Mouth Bennet. Boom. Think great minds think alike. He has no marbles in his brain during his RFK. It was embarrassing. If you're from the state of Colorado, you should be as embarrassed about your damn Democrat Michael Bennet as Republicans and people in Kansas should be embarrassed about their U.S. senator out there. There's a lot of reasons, Republican and Democrat, to be a U.S. senator, and there's a lot of reasons to be embarrassed about your U.S. senator, and some of that embarrassment goes on both sides of the aisle. And questioning of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was absolutely positively disgusting. And I didn't get to comment on it Friday because we were out golfing, but we'll talk more about that because I think it's important that these so-called experts get up there and all they're doing is fundraising videos. Trey Gowdy was the best at it. I mean, I loved him. He was a prosecutor and he would really go after these guests and these people in the hot seat, but nothing ever happened to them of consequence. It was all about raising money and look what a great fighter he is. And that was the dog and pony show that Big Mike Bennett and Big Pharma Michael Bennet was trying to do on Thursday. That's what Pocahontas was doing when she was on the warpath against Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They don't know a dang thing about what they They don't know a dang thing about what they're talking about, and yet they pretend to be experts. And the media says, oh, the esteemed senator from Connecticut, the esteemed senator from Kansas has really gone after Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That's kind of like saying that back in the Bill Clinton days that Hillary Rodham Kinkles Clinton was, Hillary Clinton said this about healthcare in America, as if she's some freaking expert. I mean, Hillary Clinton had done 2 laps around a trailer park and finally got married into some guy that has a political future. And that's it. That's all Hillary Rodham Kinkles Clinton had to do. By the way, you ever go back and watch Kinkles? She does an interview. They've been playing it some lately where she sat by Willie Jeff Clinton, her hubby, who had tucked his pee-pee back in his pants and straightened up and decided to fly right. She says, I'm no Tammy Wynette. She had a Southern accent. Yeah, if you listen to those early interviews, Kinkles had a Southern accent, but she was no more qualified to run healthcare or Hillary care in America than a lot of those people were to question Robert F. Kennedy Jr. All right, we'll talk more about that. It just disgusted me, and I had to get that off my chest early in the morning. We got Michael Lutz coming up here in just a moment, but let me ask you one question here. I bet he knows who I'm talking about. Does anybody know the name? Iryna Zarutska. I can't even say it. It's a Ukrainian name. If you haven't seen this story, it's because you're not watching real news. This is the photo. This is her beautiful photo. She's a Ukrainian immigrant, and the Democrats supposedly love Ukraine, and they love immigrants, right? Well, the senseless, unprovoked murder of a 23-year-old, there she is sitting on a train, the light rail in Charlotte, North Carolina. She's just sitting there. And this guy who had been released from jail multiple times because of soft on crime Democrat cities, just stood up on the light rail, stabbed her in the neck, and killed her for no reason, no provocation. She's sitting there, and that photo on the right of your screen is her seconds before she bled out and died on the train and was declared dead on arrival. Here's a question, CNN. Where are you, Jake Tapper? Where are you, all you jackwagon fake journalists? Why haven't you covered the story ad nauseum? Let me tell you, if that was a honky back there about to stab somebody that was black unprovoked, I'm telling you, you would probably get a lot more answers out there. What would it take for the media to cover this? Would this person need to be a transgender? Would this young lady, this immigrant that the Democrats claim they care so much about, she didn't even get a chance to be deported by Tom Homan. She got killed on a train, and evidently the Democrats are absolutely fine with that. You know why they don't cover it? It doesn't cover their narrative. They love immigrants as long as they're not blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and they love immigrants as long as it doesn't expose that their easy on crime policies are failing and getting people killed. And if this exposes the Democrat policies of being soft on crime. So her name is Iryna Zarutska, and I'm mispronouncing that not on purpose, but because I just can't help it. And I think there's 12 different judges that killer had gone before and had been released out with very little or no bail. And here's a story here for you. We'll go to Michael. Let's talk about crime in America. Congressman Randy Fine of Florida is filing legislation that would target any judge who releases violent criminals who go out and commit crimes after the murder of Iryna Zarutska in Charlotte. He said those 12 judges that released Carlos Brown, is his name, should have their day in court. It's easy to release these criminals when you're protected by an armed bailiff at all times. The rest of us aren't so lucky. And I agree. All of these judges have blood on their hand, and one day they'll stand before the Almighty and ask why you got Iryna killed, and why you let this criminal out there. But again, a news story that most of you haven't heard of. It's a very violent video. You haven't heard of the video or heard about the crime because it doesn't carry the narrative of the American left and what the American left wants you to think about, know about, and talk about. So it's a disgusting expose and demonstration of why CNN should never be given the light of day. MSNBC is not worth watching in a bathroom when you have a stomach flu. It's not worth anything. MSNBC, all of these networks that have not covered this story, these journalists so-called journalists don't even know who this person is, but it is a dead woman who fled the dangers of Ukraine, fled the dangers of Vladimir Putin, and yet she fell victim to America's Democrat Party. Vladimir Putin couldn't kill this Ukrainian, but the American Democrat policies and their soft on crime attitude, that's what killed this woman that is on the screen. So Democrats, it's your policy. Her blood is on your hands. The knife that went into her neck, you might as well have had your cold, dead liberal fingers on it and jabbed it in there as well. You are disgusting people that let this man out of jail, and you elected these district attorneys and these prosecutors that let this guy roam the street like an animal that he was, and his own mother is saying that the courts did him wrong by letting him roam the street. So Democrats, Michael Bennet, Jared Polis, Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, Joe Biden, Poopy Pants, even your drug-infested son Hunter, JB, Baby Back Ribs, Pritzker, all of you. The blood of this Ukrainian woman is on your hands, and you've been screaming about protecting Ukraine and standing up to Ukraine and how bad Putin is. And it's not Putin, it's Democrat voters in Democrat cities, and it is Democrat policies that kill this Ukrainian. And where are the Democrats now, and where is CNN? Got that off my chest. Good thing we missed the show on Friday. I'm wound up and got a few things I want to say. Don't mess with me today. It's not a good day. I also got to give this story. And Scott says, I think it's on the screen. I think it's disappeared there. Well, you got to be speed readers. That disappeared quick. I think it's high time we start holding judges responsible for actions of these released criminals. I agree with that. Thank you very much. Well, we got to talk about this one, too. This is a Philadelphia Eagles fan being a Philadelphia Phillies fan being a Philadelphia Phillies fan. There's something evil about people that like Philadelphia sporting teams. There's the Philly Karen. I think it's Elizabeth Warren's relative. She looks a lot like Pocahontas. We'll talk about that later. What is it about these liberals stealing baseballs from babies? Yeah, usually if we can't abort you before you're born, we're just going to steal your baseballs at a game and make your life a living hell because we didn't want you born in the first place. Got that off my chest. We can wrap it up. I'm pretty much on a roll here. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Letts is standing by in the green room and listening to my prolific pontification. Michael Letts, investusa.org. Hello, Michael. How are you? I got a lot of things off my chest. I feel better.
Well, we still got more to go. I'm sure there's plenty more. I mean, we're going to wind up now. Let me pick up on the I'll call it the Karen you just talked about. She posted this morning in tears that she can't go anywhere out in public now without being ridiculed by even her neighbors and her friends. It's kind of like, what do you think you're going to get? You think you're going to get a pat on the back? I mean, seriously, the kid.
The guy's holding his son like, watch out for this woman. She's. This is the time you wish the old woman, and she's a Trump hater. She probably usually wears a mask because she was so close. She was spitting. You're like, put your mask on before you spit your venom at me because she was very, very close. I think she wants a brownie button or a prize or something for her behavior. I hope she's shamed. I've heard rumors that she's been identified and she was maybe has lost her job. I don't know if that's true, but
that I don't know about. But I do know that she posted this morning saying that in tears, that she's just being ashamed and ridiculed. She can't even go out to the grocery store. This has got to stop. She is a good person. I'm going, oh, that's nice for you to think that, but kid, the rest of America doesn't.
Yeah, a good person. And I think the father, some people say, well, the father should have just punched her or given the baseball back. I think, and he said in an interview, he said, I'm going to just de-escalate this thing. And matter of fact, let me play the audio. This is him and his son talking, and we'll just hear this for funsies. Since I have it available, we might as well play it. It's audio.
It was starting to head our way a little bit. It fell and kind of bobbled between the two armrests, and I picked it up, and I just walked away and held the ball up high and put it in Lincoln's glove. And then she showed up. As she reached for my arm, she just yelled in my ear, "That's my ball!" Like super loud. I jumped out of my skin. Then she's like, "Those are from our seats." And I said, "There was nobody in that seat." I pretty much just wanted her to go away and be dad and show him how to de-escalate the situation. So that's where I went.
I wasn't very happy that we had to give it to her, but we can't win. She was going to get it anyways.
The kid made out all right. He got, I think the Phillies gave him a lot of stuff. And this woman, I hope she, I don't know, goes to jail or goes to hell. I don't know which one she's doing it, but it's just nasty. What is it about people, Michael? I mean, that's not necessarily a criminal behavior, but people just recently have seemed very emblazoned to do some very bad things. They don't even care that they know they're being filmed at every intersection. They see people beating each other in the street. You see people being attacked, and they know that people have cell phone cameras. They know that there's stadium cams. and people seem to just have no care in the world. They're just right in public display all this crazy behavior. I thought you thought cameras might be a deterrent, but they're not.
Well, I think the biggest issue, Jimmy, is what you alluded to earlier. You see, our elected officials, especially the Democratic side, are exhibiting the same behavior. So they're sitting there thinking it was good enough for a congressman, good enough for a former president, good enough for these people to rant and scream and yell like that, then why can't I do the same? And in a sense, they got a point. That's why it's time to start holding people accountable. I realize that there is no felony committed here. But, from that standpoint, Jimmy, I think the appropriate measure was just what happened. She needs to be identified and she needs to be held accountable by society. And that's happening to her now. And I don't think there should be any mercy shown. I think she should be ridiculed for some time to come. But it's not just her. It's what we have done in public in general. We have allowed our elected officials to act like they're above the law. And of course, from a citizen standpoint, I thought that nobody was above the law. So if they could do it, then I guess I should be able to get away with it as well. That's the message being sent. So what we really need to do, Jimmy, is go after these elected officials that act this way. They want to rant and rave and spit in cops' face when they're trying to visit a center and they're not let in, et cetera. They should be held just as accountable as any normal citizen should be.
Yeah. Here's a story about a guy who was never held accountable. It's the murder that's not getting a lot of the mainstream legacy journalism's coverage. It's Iryna Zarutska, immigrant from Ukraine, refugee. Vladimir Putin didn't get her, but liberal policies did. This guy, Dick Carlos, been let out of jail like 12 different times. They couldn't probably fit all of his mugshots that he's had for all of the bookings that he's had on the screens this morning. But for some reason, he was out of jail. And the media is very quiet about this murder. They're very, very, very quiet. And it's these bail policies that let this guy roam the street.
Well, I think that's what you said was the critical aspect of this. How hypocritical the media is. They don't want to say a word about this. This poor girl survived a war zone in Ukraine, but yet couldn't survive the streets. And I'm embarrassed to say it because Charlotte's only 50 miles up the street from me. I'm embarrassed to say it, but couldn't survive Charlotte. That's the kind of people we have riding our transit system. Jimmy, it is time that we get these people off the street. And furthermore, here's where the real problem lies. It's not the cops are not doing their job. We're taking them off the street, but they're putting them back on the street where we can get back in the cruiser to drive to the next call. So we need to hold judges accountable. And I realize people holler, oh, you can't do that. Because if a judge is scared that he might be held accountable for a decision, he won't do what his heart tells him to do. Well, some of these judges don't have a heart, or they got a filthy, dirty heart. And I don't want them to do what their heart tells them to do. I want them to do what the law says to do. And if they can't understand that concept, they need to be, first of all, removed from the bench. And second of all, they need to face some consequences of their actions. We haven't reached that point yet in this country. I think we're getting there very quickly. But it's time that Americans realize that if we don't clean up our judiciary system, what good does it do us, Jimmy, to have all our cops back on the street doing the job if they're putting it back on the street faster than we can arrest them?
Let's talk about law and order restored to America. I was watching this video that came out late last week of our U.S. military taking out this Venezuelan drug boat headed to America. And we talked about that, I think, the day it happened, that the day after it happened, some of these guys had become shark bait. And God bless them, rest in peace. And I'll let you go stand before your maker. Some of the politicians out there said, oh, my God, we don't have the right to do that. And then I heard the perspective, listen, we've been taking out terrorist groups in the Middle East. We take out terrorist groups anywhere we need to. Africa, we've done all sorts of military operations when we feel that a person or persons are threatening America. And yet at the same time, simultaneously, for years, we've declared that we have a war on drugs, and we've never taken out any of these people that are really proliferating this war on drugs against us. And we finally took action against these criminals from Venezuela the way that we've taken actions against people in the Middle East and terrorist cells somewhere else. Are we wrong to finally bring that war against terrorism right into the Caribbean?
No, we're not wrong at all. We're exactly right to do it. Here's the thing. We should have been doing this years ago. We never had a president that had the backbone to do it. Because here's what we need to be doing, Jimmy. We need to go to wherever the action is at that's terrorizing and killing our citizens. I'm glad that we closed the borders. I'm glad we're bringing it under control within our United States, within our country. But the fact of the matter is that if they are going to continue to generate and proliferate things that are killing our citizens, we need to go to the source. We don't have to create a war. Jimmy, we have enough military expertise and enough military might. We are the best military in the world as it stands right now, even over Russia and China. And we have enough military might. We can go in a day, 2 days at best, and eliminate the threat, eliminate the issue, and be back out. It would be very little casualty rate because I've seen it done many, many times. So quite frankly, what are we waiting for, Jimmy? You know, why did we go to Europe during World War II? They weren't on our territory. They weren't on our land. We did it because we believed in a cause. We believed that we should secure freedom first and foremost for our Americans. And we knew that if we allowed them to take over in Europe, they would eventually be coming over here. So we went to where the source of the problem was and eliminated it. We need to be doing the same philosophy, Jimmy, wherever it may be. And we're sending a message to global across the world. Look, you mess with an American, you mess with and you harm one of our citizens, we're going to track you down. And you're going to pay a price. And it's going to be a price that you won't ever have a second chance to pay because we're going to eliminate you. Once you get that kind of a reputation, Jimmy, then you have pride in our country. Everybody wants to be an American kid, don't they? They want to know that they stand for something. And that's where we should have been years ago. But thank God we've got an administration that's bringing it back.
Michael, that's one more question for you. There's a story that's coming out of Durham, North Carolina, that they have passed in Durham the Fourth Amendment Workplace Act in response to the ICE raids that are happening. Explain what's happening in Durham and what this Fourth Amendment Workplace Act is.
Well, they're pretty upset, Jimmy, that in Georgia, right outside of Savannah, they raided Hyundai car manufacturing facility and picked up 450 illegal immigrants. No, these are not Venezuelans. These are not Mexicans. These are South Koreans. I mean, I realize South Korea is an ally, but it doesn't make any difference whether you're an ally or not. You either come in legally or you don't. And so now the South Korean government is all in arms saying, oh, please release our citizens, give them back to us. Now, I'm sure they're going to work out some exchange or some trade or whatever they need to do behind the scenes. But if we're going to do it with our allies, we're going to do it anywhere. And what they're trying to do in North Carolina is to say, oh, no. If you've got a job, if you're working and being productive, you're not allowed to be picked up. Well, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China, Jimmy? Yeah. Is that because I have a job meaning that I can't be stopped for violating the traffic law? Because, hey, I've got a job. I'm being productive. Of course not. What it means simply is this. It means if you are going to break the law, you're going to pay the price. And for a legislative body to attempt to pass something, first of all, it would be found constitutional anyway. But just the fact that they're attempting to do so, I think they need to be paid a little visit, be held accountable for their actions, quite frankly.
Yeah. They say that we have to keep these migrants, if you will, the illegals in here. Who's going to pick our blueberries and who's going to change our sheets and all the things that they've said on CNN and MSNBC before. Well, last I knew that Americans weren't perfectly happy to work on the assembly line and build cars. So they can't. Who's going to build our cars? No one's going to build our cars. No, Americans are happy to build cars. That's a factory. That's a manufacturing job, usually a well-paying job. And it kind of takes away the argument that, they wanting to defend the blueberry picker. And now it's like, well, what about the car maker? Because we can do that. If you may think Americans won't pick blueberries, which we will, but we'll make cars. So it's just kind of funny to say they weren't just taking jobs from blueberry pickers.
You're exactly right, Jimmy. Here's the issue. People will work if you give them the opportunity. It may not be what you want to do, but they will work to make sure they can provide for themselves and for their family. And that's what makes America great.
Yeah.
You're not given a job and saying you have been determined to be a blueberry picker for life. You can pick the job that you want, and you can continue to work there until you're able to move up to the next ladder. Yeah. That's a capitalism. That's a great part of America. And here you've got Democrats and liberals trying to destroy that very tentacle of American society.
Michael, that's investusa.org. Golf tournament's over, sir. I'll be in touch with you real soon. Investusa.org, investusa.org, keeping people, law enforcement officers safe on the streets. Michael, I hope people give you a couple of bucks there to buy those protective gear that the military, the law enforcement people need. Investusa.org. We'll talk soon, sir.
Thank you. God bless. God bless America. Glad your golf tournament was successful. Look forward to hearing the final figures.
It was a good day. It was a good day. I'm still tired. I still need a nap, but it was a good day. All right, Monday, September the 8th. Glad to have you here. Before we go to the next guest, I want to remind you about Sherry Cree. Homeswithsherry.com is her website, homeswithsherry.com. If you're anywhere in the I-25 corridor in the great state of Colorado, let's say from Denver and head on down towards Castle Rock, head on down to Littleton, the Park Meadows area, head on up the I-25 to the Fort Collins area. Let's say that whole I-25 corridor and the surrounding metro area. Sherry's ready to help you make the right decision for your home. A lot of speculation about where interest rates are going to go. How will that affect the housing market? It can, and there's a reason why. If you've been thinking about, if you're just waiting out the interest rate, there's a reason why you might want to jump in now. Did you know that there's some banks and lenders that are already building into their interest rates that lower interest rate? So listen, so you can, while not everybody's flooded the market, might be a great time for you to get in. The bottom line is their strategy when it comes to putting a sign up in your yard, who you hire, when you hire them, the timeline, where you want to move to. Listen, Sherry can help you with all that strategy from the top to the bottom, the left to the right, whether it's staging your home, or maybe she'll tell you, hey, maybe you want to wait a year. She's done that before, and people have been thankful that they didn't sell their home when they thought or buy a home when they thought they wanted to. She'll give you some strategy advice. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Just go to her website. If you're in Boulder, if you're in Broomfield, if you're in Aurora, she can make sure you don't live next to Trende Aragua. She can make sure you don't live in a crime-riddled neighborhood as well. She can also talk about interest rates, etc. You get it. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com, proud sponsor of the program. Glad to have her as a sponsor, and hope you got to meet her at the golf tournament on Friday. She was out there with a couple of foursomes of her own, and they had a good day of golf. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring in my next guest. Running about 4.5 minutes late here, but I'm going to catch up on time. I want to bring in, if I can, bring up the correct screen so that I can bring. I got all sorts of screens happening here. There we go. There's the right screen. The author, Donald Wilkie, is in the green room, bringing him on the stage now. Freedom Revealed, a simple, elegant system. And we bring Donald back to the program, and he's waiting patiently. Mr. Wilkie, welcome back, sir.
Great to be here, Jim.
Glad to have you back on the program. First of all, I want to get in a couple of topics of the day. But you've written a book, Freedom Revealed, a simple and elegant system. Sometimes you hear revisionist history or you hear people talk about the American system, and obviously there's some imperfections along the way. But you write a book that's really an ode to say, hey, there's a lot of stuff out there, but we should be very, very proud of the system that was designed for us. Let's unpack the bottom line meaning of the book, talk about the book, then we'll talk about some news stories.
Well, you're exactly right. Everybody thinks of freedom as a philosophy, and that makes everything confusing. Freedom is a system, and the more I study our founding, the more I understand our founders really got the system. And it's simple, and when you think about it, it's just obvious. So I happened to go back to the very beginning here just a couple days ago and read the preamble to the Constitution. And everybody should read the preamble to the Constitution. And there's 4 points that it makes that we should all remember. Establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare. That's what we started our country to do. And now we have millions of people talking about symptoms and not root cause. What Freedom Revealed does is get us back to the root cause.
We often have people saying that President Trump talking about he wants to protect the people of Chicago. He wants to send the guard in there to at least help local law enforcement. He wanted to do the same thing in Washington, D.C. He was rebuffed at first. Now they end up thanking him for doing that. Do you think that the founders saying that they want to, those 4 things at the very beginning of the Constitution or the preamble, do you think that those are justifiable means to where he says, listen, our founders started the country. We have to ensure domestic tranquility. Chicago doesn't have any, and so we're going to ensure some domestic tranquility.
Exactly. Yeah. I like to think about it as a group. Okay. Let's say a group of 10, 20 people. And going back to our earliest days of human beings on Earth, but you have a system. Anytime you have a group, you have some people that are big, you have some people that are little, you have some people that are smart, you have some people that aren't so smart. Well, anarchy is when the big take over the little. And there is no law. You bring in law, you bring in government. We invented government for the purpose of evening that out. Hey, we don't care how big you are, the government is bigger. And if you don't adhere to the government rules, the rule of law will squish you. Now, this is the whole thing with government throughout the ages. Government is the big guy in town, and we will take care of it. So, yes, Trump has a fundamental duty to ensure domestic tranquility. And these people, Jimmy, in these cities, I have come to believe there is an ulterior reason for the way they are behaving. They aren't that stupid. They can't be that stupid. They see what's going on. They know what's going on. Now, we've just talked about anarchy briefly. But if you have rules, you have a mayor, you have a city council, you have a book of rules, you have a police department, and none of them are enforced, you have anarchy. What's the difference? There is no difference.
Yeah.
So you cannot survive in a situation like that. The small people are the ones who get hurt. And the other thing that's very important, people don't understand, is the marketplace gets distorted. Stores close, businesses leave. The ability of people in the city to get jobs goes away. And what happens when the jobs go away and the stores leave? The people become dependent. And when they become dependent, who gets to take care of them? The government. And when the government takes care of you, who are you going to vote for? The government. So I think that's the ulterior motive going on. These people aren't that stupid.
Yeah. I want to show you a photo here that I brought up earlier. This is the photo of Iryna Zarutska, who's a Ukrainian refugee, escaped the wars of Putin, and came to America, was stabbed on a North Carolina light rail. The media's barely covering it. And I think one of the reasons they're barely covering it is that guy, Mr. DeCarlos there, if you can call him a mister, his own mother said the justice system failed him. He was out on parole for 12 different, he'd been arrested 12 different times for very violent, nasty crimes. And yet he just stood up, stabbed the girl in the neck, killed her right there on the spot. No reason, no provocation. And you look at it and go, well, people, mental illness or what, drugs or whatever. The guy was out of jail after 12 different judges let him out of jail, let him walk the streets for no reason. I think when you go back to the preamble of the Constitution, our forefathers never imagined that we would have local or national government that would be so stupid as to think that this jackass ought to be roaming the streets.
It's hard to call ourselves a civilized nation when we allow this to happen. And I blame the government squarely. It's the government's fault. I mean, they had this guy several times. Get him off the streets. People don't understand, back in the 1790s when the Constitution was written, law and order meant a little bit more than it does now. And, you could get really whipped. You could get put into jail for a long time for doing simple things. There used to actually be debtor prisons where if you owed people money, you went to jail. The punishment was much more severe back then than it is now. And again, I think the whole reason that we are been so lax in the Democrat cities is because they want people dependent. They want the votes, and it's all about getting Democrats elected. Again, this is really unforgivable what they're doing. Yes. And I should mention, I have a little bit better history than most people because I'm a refugee from Detroit. And by that I mean in the 80s, Detroit was a no man's land. I mean, no go. You there was no law and order, and you just couldn't operate a business. Not only was the law and order broken, but the people who ran the government, the people who were in charge of enforcing the law, they were all corrupt. You could never get a fair trial or a fair deal. And I often wondered back then when I was in business, I said, how could these people be that stupid? They're ruining the city. And then you finally understand they're not that stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. And this is what's happening with Mamdani in New York. They know exactly what they're doing. They're bringing him in. Detroit was the industrial marketplace of the world. It's gone. Now, New York is the financial capital of the world. They want to get rid of that too. Yeah. That's what's happening.
The voice of Donald Wilkie, if you're listening later in the day, with thousands of earballs by the end of the day, end of the week, we'll hear this show. It's the voice of Donald Wilkie. He's written a book called Freedom Revealed, A Simple, Elegant System. Donald, before we go our separate ways here, I want to ask you a question about, I was watching last week, kind of a little long setup. I'm watching all these people proclaim their expertise when it comes to questioning Robert F. Kennedy Jr. last week and really showboating and trying to raise money. And it made me go back to the days in which these members of Congress suddenly they're nobodies, and yet they become experts on everything. Even back in the days of Bill Clinton, he declared his wife was an expert on healthcare and decided she was going to revamp the healthcare system. That didn't work out. But you have these people that are just kind of know-it-alls, and yet they don't really know anything. I go back to our founders. I think of guys like Jefferson. I think of guys like Ben Franklin. I know you've studied him a great deal. These guys actually seem to be intellectuals. These guys actually seem to be thinkers. These guys actually understood the concepts and the core of the concept, and they could connect two dots together and actually make some sense. We miss those kind of days. We have very few Benjamin Franklins and Jeffersons roaming the hallowed halls of Congress, do we?
Zero. My last count. Yeah, exactly. And, really, what I realized from writing my book is freedom is a system, and it's simple. And in fact, some people have written it and said to me, it's just too obvious. And yeah, it is too obvious. And one of the simplest ways people can look and see if their government is doing the right thing or the wrong thing is simply read the preamble of the Constitution. It's what the government is out there supposed to do. And you can easily tell, is the government doing it or is the government not doing it? It's very simple.
It's called Freedom Revealed, A Simple, Elegant System. Mr. Wilkie, I'll let you give a little plug of the book again. Is it a book that you have to be as smart as Benjamin Franklin to understand, or is it a book that's made for the lay worker out there that says, well, I went to the public schools, but I'd like to learn more?
Well, the beautiful thing about Franklin, the genius, maybe the smartest man who ever lived, I don't know, was he could explain things simply. He could explain things to a 13-year-old. And that's what I've tried to do in the book. It's very simple. Competition, waste, and ease are how the world works. And if you can remember competition, waste, and ease, the rest becomes self-evident. It's just that simple.
The book is available anywhere fine books are sold. And Donald Wilkie, where else can people follow you and follow any future work that you do? And I know you make some media appearances as well.
Well, I have a Substack site, freedomrevealed.net. My email is dwilkie@freedomrevealed.net. And you can find me on YouTube and just Googling me. And I've been on a lot of shows like yours, so people can follow me that way too. freedomrevealed.net. That's a Substack. Go check that out, and you can keep up with the regular writings and get a copy of the book. I think you will find it fascinating and enlightening and hopefully educational. And it's called Freedom Revealed, and make sure you get a copy. I appreciate you hopping on the program today, sir. Well, glad to have you back. We'll do it again, sir, in the very, very, very near future. All right, good to have you here on the program. Don't forget, I mentioned all of our streams that we're on. We're on lots and lots of Facebook streams, Red Wave America, the Media Equalizer this morning, Jimmy Lakey fan page, our X page. We're streaming out on all sorts of places, live stream. And as soon as this program's done, producer Chad will put his grubby little hands to work and somehow load this program up audio only onto all the podcast platforms. So we'll be on iHeart and Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, all the platforms you listen to for your podcasting later on in the day. And I always say have a backup because you never know. One day you'll oversleep or get called to the boss's office, or you won't be able to watch the show live. We appreciate those of you that do it. But listen, make sure you have the podcast version as well. Like it, download on all your favorites. Just look up Jimmy Lakey Unleashed, Jimmy Lakey Unleashed, and you will find me there on all the podcast platforms. And as I said, you're not alone out there. Thousands of earballs will hear this show or see this show, a combination of both, by the end of the day and the end of the week. So we appreciate all of you doing it, but download, listen on your favorite podcast platform as well. That's another way to support the program. All right, let me bring into the program a voice that maybe you heard many years before on my radio show.
And in recent years, or recent months, we've been able to have his glorious face seen by everybody because we've gone video on the program as well. His name is Gregory Wrightstone. He's a geologist, executive director of the CO2 Coalition based in Arlington, Virginia. He's a best-selling author of a book called A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 are Benefiting Humanity. I bring him into the program now. Gregory Wrightstone, welcome back on, sir.
Oh, thanks, Jimmy. Hey, you may not know, actually, I've got a newer book. It's a children's illustrated book, Chloe the Clownfish Sleeps Well. So you can just search for Chloe the Clownfish and learn about what's going on in the Great Barrier Reef.
I am guessing that Chloe the Clownfish is a way that parents can, counter-indoctrinate or counter-program some of the BS that kids may be getting taught in their schools about global warming and the environment. Talk about that. There's been some indoctrination. A lot of folks believe some false things about this global warming.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we had members here at the CO2 Coalition back in 2023 that came to me and said they were very concerned about the state of science education in America. They were concerned that our children were being indoctrinated into this climate cult. They're being taught consensus science and groupthink. They weren't being taught the scientific method or critical thinking skills. So we launched an education initiative. And you can go find, we offer free materials and a standalone websites, co2learningcenter.com, co2learningcenter.com. So you can go buy, and we've got lesson plans. We're really catering to the homeschool community, and the homeschoolers just love us because we're offering all this material free to homeschooling parents, any parents, but you can buy Chloe on Amazon. We have other books with the lesson plans on that website that are free for downloading. And so I'm really proud of that. In fact, we attended 6 homeschool conventions this past summer, and those homeschooling parents just love what we're doing. In fact, we've got a banner that we put up. It says, science education, not indoctrination. And so it's those pushing the global warming narrative hate this, because we're going after the children. And this is the new Sleep Well series that tells the story of Chloe that can't sleep at night because she learned in school that her home and her family were in great danger. And we're able to tell the truth. I collaborated with Dr. Peter Ridd from Australia, who's one of the top experts, or the top expert on the Great Barrier Reef, to show that the Great Barrier Reef and other corals are thriving, not in danger.
Let me ask you, is there a way possible that we could buy, I'll pay for it. Can we get a copy of this book to Greta Thunberg? She's one of those people out there spreading some fake news about climate change. Greta, I don't know where she learned it, but she said the world's supposed to already be over. Al Gore said the world should be flooded by now. They've all been lying to us for all these years.
Oh, they have. And the nice thing, which you learn in this book, is they're telling us that corals in the Great Barrier Reef are being harmed by hot temperatures, heat waves, unprecedented. But what we learn here is that actually the hotter the better for corals. Corals thrive. The northern part of the reef is actually, the corals are growing at about 50% faster rate than in the south where it's cooler. It's in the southern hemisphere, so northern Australia is hotter than the southern part. So it's completely opposite of what we're being told.
We have a lot of things that are opposite of it. So we were talking about you should pay the airlines bonus money so that you could erase your carbon footprint, and your CO2 is bad, your CO2 emissions. And you've named your organization the CO2 Coalition and the CO2 Learning Center because they've been telling you the wrong thing about CO2.
They have. Our motto here is we love CO2 and so should you, because it's hugely beneficial. And my new book, the title is A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity. And the overall theme of the book is that by almost every metric you look at, Earth's ecosystems are thriving and prospering, and the human condition's improving. I call it the greatest untold story of the 21st century, that of a thriving planet and humanity prospering. They need to keep people like me and my colleagues here at the CO2 Coalition. They need to keep us quiet. They need to silence us because we have a fact-based narrative telling the climate truth about the great things that are happening.
Yep.
And when people hear it, just about everybody I talk to, just their eyes get wide. Why aren't we being told this? What you're telling me, the agricultural productivity is increasing? Well, I didn't know that. I mean, there aren't increasing heat waves. I didn't know that. There's so many climate facts that are out there that just run completely counter to what we're hearing from the mainstream media and the climate bedwetters.
The climate bedwetters. That's coined that phrase. I like that. Gregory Wrightstone, it's all fun and games until it started affecting all of us. It's all great for Greta Thunberg to take her chili bowl haircut and go around the globe and scream, "How dare you!" It's all fun and games, when they're protesting on the streets. But suddenly, you go to the Home Depot, you go to the Lowe's, you call the plumber, you can't get a toilet that flushes enough water. Your dishwasher doesn't work as much. I mean, they start putting energy standards on products and items and appliances that are unheard of. Again, it's all fun and games until it starts hitting us on our pocketbook. That's where we need to reverse some of this policy that these lunatics, these bedwetters have inspired.
Exactly. And if you look, if your viewers take a look around you, take a look above your head right now. Your ceiling fan, if you have one up there, it was regulated last year. You're only allowed now to buy government-approved ceiling fans. You're only allowed to buy government-approved dishwashers, like we talked about. And this one of the big things, these dishwashers that you're allowed to buy today, it takes anywhere from 2.5 to 4 hours for each cycle. And that's ridiculous. It's because why? Because they reduce the amount of water and they want to reduce the amount of electricity because the government says these are more efficient dishwashers. And let me tell you what, Jimmy, the government's definition of an efficient dishwasher is a lot different than my wife's definition. The government says, well, we're going to save water, we're going to save electricity. And my wife says, no, this is her definition of a dishwasher that's efficient. She wants the dishes clean in 30 minutes or less. Now that would be efficient. And we see the same thing. All of your viewers, their freedoms to choose have been restricted by an overzealous regulatory agencies like the Department of Energy and the EPA. It's ridiculous. And hopefully we're seeing the start of pushback on this. Wouldn't it be wonderful to buy an incandescent light bulb?
Yeah.
Let's make light bulbs great again, please.
Yeah, by the way, you said your wife's version of her view of what a dishwasher. I thought it meant you just doing it quicker. My view of a good dishwasher is Greg getting off the couch and scrubbing them. That's what I thought you were going to say.
No, I'm pretty fortunate. My wife, she takes pretty good care of me, and a wonderful cook and handles everything. I'm so busy with what I'm doing, fighting back against this climate nonsense. I'll be traveling, getting up at 3 a.m. tomorrow, traveling up to Warren, to the nether regions of Pennsylvania. I'm the keynote speaker there. I'm heading off to Australia in a month for a week-long speaking tour there. Just got back. So I'm traveling a lot, speaking a lot, and we're trying to get that information out there.
Yeah. Let me ask you as we wrap up here, and I want to push people to your website again, co2coalition.org, so they can get the truth about all this propaganda that's been out there for a long, long time. Are we seeing any reversals on some of these policies? Again, it's all cute when Greta Thunberg's out there screaming, "How dare you?" But it's not all cute when it takes 4 hours for your dishwasher and you got to flush your toilet 7 times to dispose of things. Are we making any progress? Is the government regulation starting to dial back? Where are we at?
We're seeing the beginnings of that, and the best example is Lee Zeldin at EPA with what's called the endangerment finding. And in 2009, the Obama EPA regulated tailpipe emissions from vehicles using the theory that carbon dioxide is a pollutant. That was called the endangerment finding, that CO2 is a danger. It isn't. It's a miracle molecule, not the demon molecule. And that's the beginning of it. That's what they've used for regulating your dishwasher, your cars, driving you, forcing you to go buy an electric vehicle, what dishwasher, dryer, or washer and dryer you can buy, how much water comes out of your shower head. It all goes back to this demonization of carbon dioxide. And again, we just see huge benefits that are accruing to benefit humanity. It's, again, I call it the greatest untold story of the 21st century, that of a thriving of humanity.
Chloe the Clownfish, your children's book. If they want to learn everything, right there's the cover of it. Get that for your kids. Good bedtime story. CO2 Coalition, and I'm sure from there they can link to the site that has some of the free lessons at the CO2 Learning Center. Greg?
That is. And again, you could go to co2coalition.org to get we've just a wonderful amount of easily accessible materials. You can get the climate facts, click on them. We have I think 30 different climate facts with charts that are easily understandable. So co2coalition.org. And I thank you, Jimmy, for allowing me to get some of this truth out there.
I appreciate you hopping on. And I think in these line of shirts, you can sell them like hotcakes. I'm not a bedwetter. And then right above the bedwetter, small letters, just put climate. I'm not start some conversation. I'm not a climate bedwetter. I'm going to start using that.
Okay. You can, I haven't copyrighted it. Go ahead.
Okay, you got it. Gregory Wrightstone, appreciate you. CO2coalition.org, CO2coalition.org. Before I bring in my next guest, I want to remind you once again about Sherry Cree, her website, homeswithsherry.com. Listen, if you're moving around anywhere in America, but specifically let's start with the state of Colorado. Let's say you're in the Boulder, Broomfield, Denver, Aurora, Parker, I-25 corridor up to Fort Collins, out to Greeley and Weld County. Listen, wherever you're at in that, quote, metro and expanded metro area of Denver, there's a lot of different choices in real estate, a lot of different price points that happen. There could be variations on price points, variation on appreciation predictions. There's just, it's a crazy real estate market everywhere, but especially in Colorado, which has just kind of grown so much in the last 20 years. And you want to be in a home, first of all, has your home appreciated properly? Is your next home going to appreciate properly? What are the interest rates going to do? A lot of folks are trying to hold out of the market until interest rates actually are technically lowered, and that trickles over to the mortgage world. But listen, Sherry talked with us on the program last Tuesday, and she'll be back with us this Friday, that sometimes it's better to just jump in now because some of the lenders have already started accounting for a lower interest rate that they're expecting to be coming up in mid-September, and you can get in the market before everybody else. And you need to contemplate that, because once everybody gets in, it becomes a buyer's market. Right now, it tends to be a little bit more on the seller side. Listen, all this strategy, and also can vary neighborhood to neighborhood, city to city. And she can also make sure if you're in Aurora, you don't live next to Tren de Aragua, or in Denver, she can make sure if you got to live in one of those cesspools, she'll make sure you're not in danger as much as possible. So homeswithsherry.com. Seriously, guys, take a strategy session with her, talk about it. She's actually talked to people that are ready to sell, and she talks them out and says, you might want to wait a year, and here's why. And she'll walk them through. And then she thought she lost the clients once. She said, well, they didn't call me back. I guess they didn't like my advice. No, they called her back in a year and said, hey, Sherry, we're ready. And she goes, oh, I thought you went with someone else. She goes, they said, no, your advice was fantastic. We're going to make more money. It's a better move. You steered us the right way. Listen, homeswithsherry.com. It's not about the fast sale, sticking a sign in your yard. It's about a long-term helping you build generational wealth through your real estate transaction, and she can help you. And don't forget, a portion of all of her proceeds, she'll donate to the charity of your choice on her the closing transaction. And if you're a military first responder, served in the military and served your country, she will discount her commissions to make it more affordable to you. And again, portion of her proceeds always go to a charity of your choice when you're her client. Homeswithsherry.com. Have that strategy session with Sherry. Strategy with Sherry. We should coin that phrase as well. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. And make sure you tell her that you thank her for supporting the Lakey Unleashed podcast and streamcast. And make sure you give her a call. Again, just talk real estate. You're going to interview realtors. Maybe you're going to interview some you like, some you don't like. Also interview Sherry, homeswithsherry.com, and get that right strategy in place. All right, I want to welcome into the program. It's been a while. Producer Chad's been squawking at me for a long time. We've got to get Salvador Litvak back on the show. And finally, after email, the people said, yes, we can do Salvador Litvak. Here he is, Mr. Salvador Litvak. Litvak has written a great book called Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time, and also a movie that is coming to a theater near you. It's already hit some cities and is going to be re-released. It's called Guns N' Moses. Mr. Litvak, welcome back to the program. How are you?
Jimmy, great to be with you. And the movie is in theaters now, including in the Denver area, Aurora, Colorado Springs, a few others. And people got to come out and see it because it's 5 nights only. It's in theaters, 500 theaters until Thursday.
All right, producer Chad and I are going to look it up and see if we can do some kind of a makeshift flash mob or something at one of the theaters here. That would be fun. It's, again, Guns and Moses. Look it up, and we'll try to look into that here in just a bit. Mr. In fact, you've written a book about Jewish culture, Jewish humor, and we've talked a little bit about that. After we've talked about that, and we've talked about how the Jews have remained such humorous people after all the persecution, I watched the news today. I watched some of these institutions of higher learning, some of these governments, and just the overall perception that anti-Semitism is almost normalized. It's kind of it's just become part of our modern society, and that's not funny. And I know you've got a smile on your face, but we have a real serious issue with anti-Semitism in our modern day, don't we?
We certainly do. Look what's happening in New York. You've got a guy there that's one step away from becoming the mayor of the greatest city in America, or at least the largest, who has said globalize the Intifada, which means nothing more than calling for the murder of Jews around the world. And that would take New York in the direction that the United Kingdom has gone. I mean, England has fallen. It's crazy what's going on there. I think I just heard today that the head of intelligence over there is somebody who also has been chanting globalize the Intifada. She's got, I mean, access to all the intelligence of the leading countries of the world. Is America sharing intelligence with England? Is our intelligence safe? That's a nuclear power. You've got it. It used to be that there were a lot of Jew haters, but at least they weren't brazen about it. Now they feel comfortable shouting it from the rooftops.
I was reading here a story from a couple of days ago from USA Today. The headline, France summons Charles Kushner, who was Ivanka Trump's father-in-law, in an anti-Semitism dispute. He wrote an open letter asking French President Emmanuel to tone down his criticism of Israel. Looks like the Kushner family getting involved and saying, hey, Mr. Macron, what are you allowing to happen here in your nation?
I think he was asking them to enforce the laws that are on the books, which would protect Jewish citizens in France from violent attacks. And for saying this, he's being summoned. When does that happen? When is an ambassador summoned? Like he's being called to the principal's office because he's issuing legitimate criticism, which, by the way, the United States and the Department of State have stood behind his comments. So if he's being summoned, it's like he's trying to summon Trump to the principal's office through his representative, Ambassador Kushner. I'm telling you that we reached this new age where they're so normalizing Jew hatred and blood libel, and they keep telling this lie over and over that genocide is being committed. There's no genocide being committed in Gaza. If it was a genocide, it would have been a parking lot already. It would be the simplest thing to do. The Israeli Air Force could have, completed that genocide in 2 days. By October 9th, it would have been done. There's no genocide. There's also nobody starving. Every time they want to say that there's starving children in Gaza, they have to produce fake photographs of children with other conditions or AI doctored photographs because it doesn't exist. And you know what? If we're going to be frank here, Jimmy, the problem is that they're not hungry. And that's why this war goes on and on and on. In the history of mankind, was there ever a war where one side is expected to feed the other? What happens in war is terrible. And eventually they get sick of it. When Sherman led the troops into the South and he said, we must make them so sick of war that they will not resort to it for generations. The North was not feeding the South during Sherman's march to Atlanta.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, if you're listening later in the day and you're on the podcast platforms where thousands of ear holes consume this audio and video, that's the voice of Salvador Litvak. Again, we'll talk about more about his movie that's in theaters now this week called Guns and Moses. Everybody stand by for that. This week, Salvador, the United Nations is expected to get together and put out some big declaration that we support a Palestinian state, and that's going to solve all the problems of the Middle East. The Israeli nation administration is going not so fast. Why would we reward terrorism by granting this kind of this vote of support? Any thoughts on what the idiots at the United Nations are contemplating this week? And rather than showing that we stand against terrorism, are they endorsing terrorism?
Of course they are. This has already been tried. 20 years ago, they said, well, listen, if they just had their own state, then they would show us that they would like to live in peace and develop that state and have a country where they could live in peace beside the other nations of the world like decent people. And so Israel pulled out of Gaza, dismantled Jewish homes and Jewish communities and Jewish villages, left wonderful industrial infrastructure, greenhouses that were very, very productive, etc., in 2005. And what was the result of that? They tore apart all that infrastructure. They used all the time, money, resources that poured in from the pitying world to build terror tunnels, terror infrastructure, launch rockets. And it finally reached its climax 20 years later, or 18 years later in 2023 with October 7th. They could have made Dubai on the Mediterranean an absolute paradise, wonderful real estate, as President Trump likes to say. And instead, they just made a terror infrastructure, launch rockets, planning for the day when they could finally realize their wet dream of eradicating Israel. That's all they want. There is no sense in the Hamas leadership, any Palestinian leadership, of having states living side by side in peace. They want Israel destroyed. They want all the Jews out. They think it's some kind of a stain on their honor. And the ridiculousness of it and the lie of it all, it becomes immediately apparent when any, common sense person looks at a map of the Middle East, where you see that the colonizer Israel is this tiny sliver that you can barely find in a vast landmass that encompasses curvature of the earth, where hundreds of millions of Arabic-speaking Muslims live. Jimmy, has it ever happened in the United States that people are living somewhere and a railroad gets built or a building gets built or a dam gets built, a project gets built, and people have to move 10 miles away? Yeah, sorry, you have to move 10 miles. Well, if these people move 10 miles away, that's the end of the entire conflict. They just have to move 10 miles away among their brethren. But their brethren won't have them because this is a generationally, people raised for generations to be violent. And they're just dangerous people. They're consumed by hatred with Jews. But if you put them anywhere else, then they hate the people around them. Jordan tried it, Kuwait tried it, and just threw them out. Because this is such a violent and dangerous people that live in Gaza and in Judea and Samaria as well.
Yeah, it is fascinating that these surrounding countries that are so critical of Israel won't take any of these people in. They literally build fortresses and fences to keep them out. It doesn't matter if you're starving, if you're persecuted, whatever. No, you stay over there. We'll tell them to give you your own state, but you're not coming in our state. That ought to tell us something.
Yeah. Egypt would not let in any Palestinians under any circumstances.
All right. The name of the book is called Let My People Laugh. Again, it's a collection of great humor, hilarious Jewish jokes, and really, I just find it fascinating after all the persecution, the Jewish sense of humor has been passed down for generation to generation, and it's a great legacy. But I want to also talk about the book. It's an action film called Guns and Moses. And if folks want to find out, we have people all over the country listening and are watching this show throughout the course of the day. It's through Thursday, which will be this week today, September the 8th. So this Thursday, this is Monday. It's a limited release. How do people find where the movie is showing? And give us a quick summation of the movie.
The movie is about a rabbi who becomes an unlikely gunfighter after his community is violently attacked. Gunsandmosesmovie.com. You can find the locations. It's 500 theaters, basically all across America. And I'll tell you something, it's really a word of mouth hit. We initially came out in July. It was very tough to get screens against the superhero movies, the Jurassic Parks, the Fantastic Four, etc. But the people kept clamoring, we want this movie, we want this movie. Fathom Entertainment heard them. They usually do 2-day releases, classic movies. They've never in their 20-year history elevated a new movie right from its release into a Fathom event, and that's happening right now. And I'll tell you something, Jimmy. The movie stars Neil McDonough, Christopher Lloyd, Dermot Mulroney, Mark Feuerstein, big stars. A movie that could not be more timely about Jews under attack who fight back. Very pro Second Amendment. I mean, the rabbi learns how to use a gun, proper firearms training that you never see that in movies, right? There was a silly montage of a guy with a few tin cans on a fence. 10 seconds later, he can shoot. It's very hard to shoot under pressure. And we showed the rabbi actually learning how to shoot. And for all these reasons, it's totally counter narrative, off narrative. And a movie with this timeliness and that level of cast. And I can assure you, and people can see the trailer immediately, they'll see it. It's very high production value, looks like any great, Hollywood studio movie. But where this movie should have 1 to 200 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, where it has a 96 audience score, it only has 10 reviews. And why is that? It's absolutely, there's a legacy media embargo against it because it is off narrative, because it says that there's bad guys with guns out there and good guys with guns are needed and can stop that kind of violence. That's a message that the mainstream media will never, elevate. And so it's by sheer word of mouth that this is getting out there. And if people want to see it in a theater, it's an edge of your seat, big screen thriller. And I really encourage them to see it this week. And you can find locations at gunsandmosesmovie.com.
Gunsandmosesmovie.com. Last question is just a curiosity, having been in media for a while, television, recording shows, and just been around the Hollywood world a little bit, in the publishing world. How do you help people understand you spend a lot of money on a movie, it ain't cheap to make, production, the actors, you spend a lot of money, and then you're kind of shunned by the mainstream legacy folks out there. You kind of have to make your own path. How do you make money off a movie? How do you end up recouping, paying back those investors? Is this a labor of love for Salvador Litvak, or is there a light at the end of the tunnel?
Please God, there should be a light at the end of the tunnel. It is a labor of love for me. It's an investment for our 17 investors, and I really want to pay them back. It may not happen just as a result of theatrical. These days, theatrical is not, really where you make your money in 99% of the movies. We really hope that we could do it in theatrical, but streaming is really where it's at forever. You create a movie, it's a property. It's like real estate. And it will continue to generate income, God willing, forever. I mean, especially if it becomes a classic. When we prepared to make this movie, we watched a thriller a day for 2 years. My wife and I, we write together, and we did a deep dive on the thriller genre. We, used many lists, 50 greatest thrillers of all time, 100 greatest thrillers of all time. And we wanted to make a movie that could take its place on such a list. And if we succeeded, then such a movie will have a life. It will continue to generate income for a long time.
Hollywood has oftentimes misjudged. There's movies that the latest Top Gun movie ended up being kind of a pro America movie, and it was a box off a blockbuster. And I think Hollywood has again been on this narrative, and that movie got a little off narrative. Angel Studios, another studio out of Hollywood, that's putting a lot of quality stuff out there that people are flocking to, a lot of stream stuff. But the off narrative stuff is something that the consumers seem to want, and it seems like the studios in Hollywood would figure that out, but I guess they're more agenda-driven than anything.
I think the people in Hollywood are very fear-driven, and they're afraid of their interns, that they're going to offend their interns and be canceled. There's a bunch of ridiculous people. And sad to say, a lot of them are Jewish, and they have not stood up for Israel. The deafening silence from a lot of quite famous people in this climate where people, they should have been speaking up. Give a lot of credit to somebody like Jerry Seinfeld, Deborah Messing, Patricia Heaton, Michael Rappaport. They've been speaking up. This is a time when we have to stand up and be heard. There is actual evil in the world. I don't have to tell you, Jimmy, there is evil in the world. Our border was open for 4 years. God knows who the hell came in. We have no idea. And this is absolutely a time when people have to be prepared to stand up. And when it comes to firearms ownership, thank God we live in a country with the Second Amendment and where people can defend themselves and defend their homes. Did you see that video recently comparing a police chief in Canada with a police chief in Florida? And the guy in Canada was saying, if somebody breaks into your home, you should try to retreat to a safe room, call the police, let the professionals deal with it. I would think the response time is not going to be enough when there's a guy in your house. Whereas in Florida, the police chief was saying, in Polk County, we have guns. And I encourage everyone to have guns. And if you break into a home in Polk County, I encourage that owner to blast away. Dump.
If I recall, the Canadian guy also said everyone should leave their car keys by the door so that when they break in, they have easy access, because that's all they want is your car keys. So they could just get your car keys. They can run away. That was the story. The bias in these studios is quite real. My buddy Steve Laffey, who's been a regular part of my show for many years, he re-released a movie that he did, kind of a Michael Moore style narrative documentary called Fixing America, and it's still out there, but he was going to re-release it. Hollywood got very interested because it was a great topic about production and industrialization and manufacturing in America. And yet the more the agents started to, so he's going to get a big time Hollywood type that would lend his voice and face and kind of become the narrator and the host of this re-release of the movie. And agents and studios started reading and said, oh, this is critical of China. And agents all of a sudden stopped calling him back. I mean, he had big A-listers ready to get involved until they kind of said, oh, shoot, we can't defend the Chinese because they're big investors here in Hollywood. And the movie never got re-released.
Follow the money. How often is that the case? And this weird axis, right? The Chinese, the socialists, and the pro-Pally crowd all finding common cause in hating America and speaking against America on American land, right? In American shores.
Guns and Moses movie. There's your Twitter or truth handle on the screen as well. Salvador Litvak, I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks for hopping on the program today.
Jimmy, thanks for having me. All the best, and keep up your great work.
Thank you, sir. gunsandmosesmovie.com. We'll see if we can find one near us, and if it works out, and maybe we will all. Who would be in if we decided to flash mob? I know a lot of you are listening later in the day. If we decided to get some tickets and just show up at one of these Fathom events and see Guns and Moses, who would join us? And maybe you could do it if we do it at a theater not near you. Maybe you could do it at your theater, and we could just at one moment in time all show up at the movie. So we'd like to do that. We got till Thursday. It's a busy week for me recovering from the golf tournament, but send it. Anybody want to go see Salvador's movie? Salvador Litvak, gunsandmoses.com. I'm going to look up the theaters that's going to be there, and maybe tomorrow we'll play a trailer, and that'll be fun. Salvador Litvak is a great guy and a great movie, gunsandmoses.com. Producer Chad and I were talking about this when it released back in July. It wasn't in the Denver area, and he and I joked and said if we had time, we should just fly to one of these cities. But now it's in the Colorado area, and it's in one of your cities as well. So everybody, if you'd like to participate, it'd be fun. We have a flash mob. Just all of a sudden, we all just kind of show up and buy a ticket. And we probably have to buy them in advance. We'll figure it out. I'll get all the logistics. We'll get all the logistics in there for you, but we'll figure it out and let us know. We got till Thursday, producer Chad, and we'll figure it out here today and see if we can get an announcement out there, and we'll all go see gunsandmoses.com. Gunsandmoses.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the meme roulette section of the show where we shamelessly steal memes from around the internet because producer Chad and I are too lazy to make them ourselves. So we steal them, and we're shameless about it. We brag about it, and we're just not even going to lie about it. We're just shamelessly stealing stuff. Before I do, one more thing. You know, we had a golf tournament on Friday. So many of you, and I'm going to get the whole list together, the last several days have been generous to the charity through your donations. And you know what's amazes me? And it really, it hits me right here. It hits me right here. Because there were so many times that after Thursday's show, and I said, I'll be back on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It was amazing. And this is what I appreciate. I love it when someone gives thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars. That's fantastic. But several names that I just recognized for the show, $10 here, $5 here. And I always say that, man, it is not imperative that you give bazillions. I mean, if you can give bazillions, I don't know how many zeros are in a bazillion, but I do appreciate, because I just know when you're giving $10, $5, $15, you're giving something, and maybe that's all that your bank account can do, or maybe you're just like, you know what, Lakey, I give to other causes, I give to my church, I give to other charities, but I want to support what you do. So that $10 actually has a kind of a dual-edged sword. That $5 is $20. They have a dual-edged sword because, number one, I know it's probably, and sometimes it's like the widow with a small mite, and just gives what she can. It gives all, makes a bigger. For some people, $10, $20, $30 is more of a sacrifice, and for some people, giving $1,000. And then I also know that some people giving $10, $20, $30, it's not lip service. It's like, Lakey, I'm being generous. I'm giving to my church, which I say give to your church first. I give to the church. I give to this organization, this charity, this cause. And you know what? I'm really spent out of my charity account, but I'm going to give something. So listen, don't think that those are insignificant. Those were very meaningful to me, because I know it's a double-edged sword, and those donations come from two different vantage points, and both of them I think are very beautiful. So thank you. If you have not made a donation today, it'd be a great day. We'll be tallying up numbers the next several days. You got lots of things out there, people sending money from DAF accounts and stuff. Checks in the mail. We get it. If you let us know, drop us a line, info at Lakey, or just go to riverspromise.org, make that donation if you wanted to make that donation to participate in what we call our largest fundraising event of the year. We start a few days early. We'll go a few more days and get the count in. Make that donation today and help us. Again, I'm going to put an email, and I'm going to get to my meme roulette, and I'll talk about this later. But do you know we weren't playing golf on Friday? It hit me yesterday. Friday was not about golf. Friday was not about playing golf. It was not about winning a tournament. We gave us some beautiful trophies, had a lot of fun, had comedians on the holes heckling people. It was fun. Hole hecklers were there. And, the world long drive amateur champion was there, hitting 400 plus yards off the tee box for charity. I mean, it was a fantastic event, but it wasn't about golf. It hit me yesterday. I need to convey this better to our golfers. When you're out here today, it's not really about golf at all. It's not about strings and mulligans and all this stuff. It really, what you did on Friday and what you do by participating with us on Friday is literally, and I have the letters from girls to prove it. Friday was about keeping girls from prostitution. We have girls that have written and said, thank you. Because of you, I did not have to become a prostitute like many of my friends. What you did on Friday was you kept kids off drug addiction. What you did on Friday is you fed kids and helped them not die of a starvation. What you did on Friday wasn't about golf. It was all about hope for children. And it was really, so many lives were impacted in so many different ways. Whether you got a hole in one or you couldn't barely hit the ball off the tee box, it wasn't about any of that. What it was really about is the impact that we made. So, thank you. I appreciate that. And I could try to convey that better, because, sometimes you're like, you want to go to the golf tournament. No, I want you to help save children. I want you to keep girls out of prostitution. I want you to make sure boys don't become drug addicts, incarcerated young men from poverty that just become pickpockets on the street and beggars. And I don't want that. I want girls who literally have written letters saying thank you to their sponsor. All my friends were pregnant at young ages and were prostitutes. And I didn't have to be, because I went to Legacy Christian Academy and Rivers Promise helped me. So anyway, it wasn't about golf on Saturday. It was really about saving kids from a lot of stuff. And I was thinking of that this weekend. That sometimes we get so caught up in the golf event or the poker event or these events that we do. And it's important to go, you know what, all this other stuff doesn't matter as much as, did we save a kid's life? Did we keep a girl from prostitution? Then who cares how many gimmicks we had at the holes, or who cares if the comedians made fun of you or whatever? We saved kids, and that's what is the most important. So anyway, I put that in perspective, that today I'm not asking you to give so that we can have better numbers at our golf tournament. I'm reminding you that it's not about golf. It's not talking about golf. I'm talking about kids, talking about children, talking about little ones that are God's kids, innocent, and we give hope to children. And a lot of times hope is education, which is the primary focus of what we do. But we've had situations where we can send them to school all we want, but if they're have an abusive home, or they're sometimes outside of education, we get involved, and we have to, because hope for children isn't just a classroom. It can happen outside the classroom as well. So thank you. I'm not talking about golf. You realize that. riverspromise.org. Okay. Not talking about you just giving a donation, talking about life change. riverspromise.org. Do you understand? Got it? All right, here we go. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, the school kids just got back from a field trip to Chicago. I've seen that one. That's great. There's Chicago. JB back ribs is on there, right? That's what Jesse Waters calls them, JB back ribs. He's probably still in there eating, licking his fingers. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Here we go, finding shells in Florida. There we go. That's beautiful, isn't it? And there's finding shells in Chicago. That's a cesspool of a city, isn't it? Chicago. Yeah. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. There it is. I will talk about this a little bit more tomorrow. Shocking. There it is, the Babylon Bee. We steal it from it. There's that battle axe, the woman, Philly sports fan, acts like a Philly sports fan. Telling you, I've met a lot of obnoxious people, and some of the most obnoxious and disgusting have been Philadelphia Eagles fans. And I didn't know the Phillies were all, but Philly people being Phillies. Yep, that old Philly didn't act very nice, did she? So again, she's probably angry. We tried to abort you before you were ever born, you little punk. Now give me the damn baseball. We didn't get you aborted. How dare you? You survived? Liberal mindsets. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Liberals now claim that if MAGA supporters had a choice between protecting their dog and a refugee, they would choose their dog. German Shepherds is on a scent. He's in hot pursuit, though. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. All right, this goes back to the opening topic. We got to talk more about this week. Everybody claiming that RFK doesn't believe in science also told you for the past 4 years of the Biden administration that it on the screen, that man on the screen is a woman. No, it's just a really ugly man that wears women's clothes. That's all it is. That's not I don't care. You can have a chop it off of me, add a dick to me, whatever you want to do. You can have any of those surgeries that Rush Limbaugh used to talk about. But guess what? It's still a woman. Still a woman. When they dig up that fat carcass 150 years from now and do an excavation, maybe someday, say, I wonder what the previous Americans look like. They would not know that that's a cross-dressing man. They would not know that. They would not think that's a woman. They'll just know it's a man. And they wouldn't even care that the man dressed up like a woman. Still going to be a man when they test that DNA in the bones. Everybody claiming that RFK doesn't understand science. Told you that person's a woman. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Back on the theme of JFK Jr. was lying about fluoride, aluminum, mercury, food additives, COVID vaccines, and chemtrails. Then why hasn't anybody sued him? Why haven't the big pharmaceutical companies sued him? You know why? There it is on the bottom line. They know he's telling the truth. And all they got to get is a bunch of screaming libtards like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and some Republicans that say, I'm a doctor, you're wrong. Well, sue him. No, you're an idiot is what you are in the members of Congress, an embarrassment to humanity and to actually getting the truth out. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. may not be right about everything, but he's a hell of a lot more right than a lot of these members of Congress have been, while America has become a very unhealthy society. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Greta Thunberg shows off a new haircut. Anybody see that new haircut? Whew, it's rough. That's what I call the chili bowl cut. I don't know what that's called. That's a rough haircut, Greta. That's a rough one. Ooh, I got nothing to say. Delilah, don't ever show up here with that haircut. Wait, I know you wouldn't. Round and round, I'm not even saying it. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, that silence means we milked the meme machine dry, which means it's time to wrap up this type of the time of the program. And we look forward to being back here on tomorrow morning, which will be, what will that be? Tuesday morning? Good Lord willing, we shall be back here. Hey, don't forget it. I mean that sincerely what I said. You know I'm not talking about golf, right? Talking about saving kids. Yeah, it's not about supporting our golf tournament. It's about saving a kid. Hope all the golfers that were out Friday know that. It wasn't about golf at all. Golf was just a great fun thing that we did. The important part is we saved some kids. And we're going to save some more today. Help us out. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. Ladies and gentlemen, until we meet again, we went overtime today, and it's all free. Thank you. You're welcome. Producer Chad and I work hard so that you get to enjoy. Until I meet you tomorrow morning, God bless you. God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. I'm out of here.